Today we're talking about the 5 steps an INFJ takes once they're fed up with somebody. The INFJ isn't the type who's going to bluntly tell you that they don't like you anymore. They're not going to be the ones who just call you up and say, I'm ending this friendship, I'm ending this acquaintance. And it's not even that we ghost people, we want to do it in a kind way. Even if it's a person we don't like very much, it has to have happened a lot before an INFJ actually becomes rude about this. So today we're talking about the 5 steps an INFJ takes once they're fed up with somebody. Before we get started, I want to remind you, if you haven't done this so far, to download the poster on the Formula to an INFJ Epic Life. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic audio guide today. Everything you need to know, you can find in the links in the description. Step number 1 an INFJ takes once they're fed up with somebody is they stop being proactive. The INFJ isn't proactive to begin with when it comes to any kind of meetups, when it comes to, setting up a friendship date or just a get together with anybody. But an INFJ is very kind. We're trying to be respectful. So if we feel like somebody is making a step, we're going to also take a step. If we feel like we haven't reached out to somebody in a while, we're going to do that. And so there is this part of us that just wants to do the right thing, that wants to do the thing that is socially acceptable, and that is just the thing to do. Once we understand that is a person that I don't want to have anything to do with anymore, I'm fed up with that person, the first step we take is to stop being proactive. So we stop taking the extra step. Remember, the INFJ is always about the extra step. So before we have to do anything else, the first thing we try is just to stop being proactive. Step number 2, we start focusing on what we don't like about that person. Even if we've taken step 1, you'll find an INFJ back channeling very often. Why? Because we have a bad conscience. We feel like that person hasn't done anything negative towards us or not, negative enough. There's always a reason why they acted this way. We're always trying to find the fault in ourselves. So even if we feel like, I don't really feel like hanging out with that person, or we don't have a good relationship anymore, they've said or done something that I just cannot accept, in most cases, we're going to try to find a way back to, okay, I need to be the better person because it's just in our DNA. Remember, I'm all about, just because something feels like that's what we should do, I'm all about saying that's not how we should continue, right? Just because we have this feeling of, I should be the bigger person, I should reach out more, I should go the extra step, that we always take a step back and remember, I'm a human too. I deserve to feel good. And if I don't feel good in the presence of this person, then it is in my right to take steps back. So in order for us to be able to move to the next level, we actually get to a place where we have to convince ourselves that we have the right to do that. And how do we do that? We focus on the things we don't like about that person. So it becomes an inner dialogue that is always focused on what that person has said, what that person has done, how bad you feel in their presence, all of those things that are going to help you to feel better about saying goodbye to that person. Step number 3, we categorize them as a random acquaintance. So we as INFJs, we very often categorize people into different sections, as in those are people I know from work, those are people that I'm closer with, those are people that I know from, my day-to-day life, as in my neighbor or the person I buy bread from, that you're kind towards, that you have a good relationship with, but you never go beyond a certain level of intimacy, right? It's kind, it's friendly, but we're staying at a distance here. And in order for us to be able to move on, we very often change the category we see that person in. So after you've told yourself, that is a person that has those negative aspects and they've said this and that, we very often don't want to stay in this state because, again, it's not a good state to be in. So how do we get to a place where we don't feel negatively about that person, but we also don't feel like we should get closer to them or feel some kind of obligation? We do that by categorizing them as random or a little bit more distant acquaintances. So that way we can stay friendly, we can stay kind, but we know in our mind that there's an emotional and mental distance. So it's much easier on us to not go that far mentally and to feel how that person is going to feel, to empathize with them, and all of those emotions that are very normal for an INFJ, but that are keeping us from doing what is actually best for us. Because again, if we're not careful, what is the typical mode of the INFJ? The typical mode of the INFJ is I care more about how the other person is feeling than how I'm feeling. And more often than not, we are more invested in making that person feel good than they're invested in themselves. Step number 4, we avoid them as often as possible. The INFJ doesn't like confrontation, and what we like even less is direct confrontation. So what we're going to do is avoid situations where we run into this person. See, when I'm telling you those steps, it's not that I'm saying, oh, that's the way an INFJ should act, or that's the healthy way an INFJ acts. The point is, though, that these steps are the typical steps an INFJ takes before we take inventory of what is happening. And one of the things we do very often, if we've gotten to this point, is that we try to avoid this person in the hope that the other person will just forget about us. We will become a distant memory to the other person. So once we're able to be off the other person's radar, we don't have to worry about it anymore. Because then we can just live our life and not feel guilty about being the party who's ending things. And that's when we get to the last step, which is that the INFJ actively tells the other person why they don't like them. This step happens so rarely, it's not even funny. A lot has to happen for an INFJ to be pushed to this step. Because it's not like the INFJ wakes up one morning and decides, okay, I don't want to have anything to do with that person. I'm fed up. I'm going to take those 5 steps in this order, and that's how it's going to happen. I'm going to start with not being proactive. Then I know the week after that, I'm going to start focusing on what I don't like. Then I'm going to, categorize them as a random acquaintance. Then I'm going to avoid them at all costs. And then I will tell them what I don't like about them. Because if we're honest, you could directly go to step 5 and you will get everything done. But that's not what we want. Our goal is to start with step 1, and hopefully step 1 will be enough. And if step 1 doesn't work, guess what? Then we're taking step 1 and step 2. If that's not enough and the other person is still in your life, that's when we take step 3, and so on and so forth. So once you as an INFJ have gotten to a place where you've tried everything and not even completely avoiding this person and going out of your way to not interact with them, if that hasn't worked, guess what? The INFJ will burst. That's the moment when the INFJ tells the other person what they don't like about them, what they've done wrong, how they see him, how they may be annoyed with the other person. And very often when an INFJ gets to that place, afterwards we feel really guilty because the way we say things can be very direct in that moment. We have bottled up everything beforehand. We have tried our best to avoid this moment as much as possible. And if you have been just pushed to that place where you have no other choice, it doesn't come out in a controlled way. And we as INFJs know exactly how to hurt another person because we're so good at understanding other people, at understanding their biggest fears, what their insecurities are. Maybe you have a person in your life who continuously does things in order to push their ego, and that is the reason why you're fed up with them. Guess what? That's what you're going to tell them at that moment. So an INFJ goes through the steps, and with every step, it gets more uncomfortable until you reach your goal, which is you don't have any contact with that person, and on top of that, you don't feel bad about it. But is this what we want as INFJs? Do you really want to go through every one of those steps and feel bad about it? Well, I'm not here to tell you to jump straight to number 5. Well, I'm not here to tell you to jump directly to step 5 because this is uncomfortable, this is hurtful, not just towards the other person, but also towards yourself. So how do we get out of these situations? Well, we don't let it get that far. Very often, we as INFJs feel obligated to allow other people to continuously do things until we're fed up with them because we don't feel like we have the right to stop them in their tracks. But here's the mistake we do very often. We are not responsible for how the other person feels. Meaning, you're responsible for letting other people know how you feel respectfully. So then they can decide, are you a person that they want to continue having a relationship with? And if they're willing to play by the rules that you set out. And every single person can set those rules. So if you, for example, say every single person I have in my life on, a closer psychological distance, I need them to not talk about those certain topics or not go in certain directions because this is something that I don't feel comfortable with. You don't have to actively say it, but every single time a person goes into this direction and you allow them to continue on that path and you don't really tell them, okay, let's talk about something else, or you change the subject, or you navigate it towards a different depth, whatever it may be. If you're not actively doing that, then the other person has no idea that they're doing something that makes you uncomfortable. You are not responsible for how that person feels if you're just making sure that the other person knows how you are feeling. I mean, think of it like that. Let's say there's a person who only speaks French. And in their mind, French is the only language that matters. French is the only good language. French is the only language they accept. And you can sort of speak French. But, the language that you love to speak is English. So is it really your responsibility to continue to try talking French with them just in order not to make them uncomfortable? Or is it your right to make them aware that you prefer English? So it's then on them to decide, are they willing to hang out with you when you are setting the rules of all I'm speaking is English. I don't feel comfortable in French. I don't understand everything. That's just how it is. And you as an INFJ have to start thinking in similar terms, because very often we don't want to tell the other person that we prefer English. Because guess what? We think we're bringing the other person in an uncomfortable position. They will have to decide that they would either have to speak a language that is a little bit more difficult for them, or they have to just say, okay, then this relationship isn't working. This is, of course, very clear cut in this example, but you will know that you as an INFJ live out those situations in day-to-day scenarios, as in how much you allow the other person to talk about politics before you say that you don't feel comfortable with those kind of conversations, how often you allow another person to talk in politically incorrect ways that make you uncomfortable, and the list goes on and on. So my whole thing is, and how I've learned to bypass so many of those steps, is to just make sure that from a very early stage on, even from the first conversation that you're having with a person, you make it more clear, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, this is what I like. And the sooner you have those confrontations, the smaller they are. They just turn into something like, yeah, I'm not really somebody who talks about politics. Let's talk about something else. A simple answer like this might avoid a huge blowout later in time when, you've pretended to be okay with everything they're saying, and at some point you just, burst, and it will bring a lot of pain to both parties and nobody is happier afterwards. So these are the things I have learned from my process of being fed up with people. I don't even let it get this far. I make it clear as early as possible. These are my parameters. These are my unspoken rules. Can you live with them? Can you not? If you can, let's move forward. If not, then we're just going to part ways. Other people are doing this all the time, and we're not interpreting it as something that is rude or something that is mean or anything like that. We just interpret it as this is who that person is. So allow yourself to be seen, and you'll see how much easier life will get. Remember, if you want some more guidelines how to get to a place where you feel comfortable standing up for yourself, choosing yourself, living the life you always wanted, then get the formula to an INFJ Epic Life. And if you want to take it to the next level, then get the INFJ Epic Life audio guide today. Everything you need to know you can find in links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then watch the video, What Happens Once the INFJ Finally Stops Trying to Be Social.